Call the City Council meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Angeli. Vining. Here. Germaine. Here. Wilmore.
Here.
Felder. Here. Whitman. Here. Mayor Clark.
Here. We all please rise for the invocation. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
We have faith and hope in each other. We ask for your guidance in the decisions that are made here this evening. We ask that you help us to work for the welfare of this community and all of its residents collectively.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, wrong side.
First item, please.
The first item would be any amendments to the agenda.
Thank you. Are there any, looking at council or administration, any amendments to the agenda that's presented here this evening? Looking at council, administration, there are none. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item are citizen comments not related to an agenda item, and I was handed a letter that was emailed this today to City Hall, so I'm going to go ahead and read that.
Sure, we'll start with that. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Patricia, and I came to the first meeting about the idea of converting West 7th from one-way to two-way. I wanted to come to that meeting mainly to sit and listen and try and understand what was going on. The confusion was because when my husband and I received the letter stating that this change was coming, we were really confused why we were just hearing it for the first time in a letter. Since then, we've come to learn that the city had already decided on this and that the residents were merely told as a courtesy, or to go through the motions, perhaps. That is very frustrating to me because we have lived in the house and raised our children here for almost 25 years. We are both college educated, graduate level, and my husband is a professional engineer. Over the years, we've had to put up with a lot in this neighborhood, including very bad tenants and landlords who don't take care of their properties. Also, my car getting hit a few times, hit and run, because of the lack of a driveway and parking in the street. I now park in the back alley, which isn't a great option either. But we have tried to raise our family here and make a lot of great memories. My neighbor gave us a copy of a traffic study from March 2019 OHM that the city paid for, and in one part of it under proposed operations analysis, it states that one assumption would be that 7th Street from Union Street to Monroe Street would experience twice the amount of total traffic volume compared to 8th and 6th Streets. In the meeting I attended in early August, and the meeting that subsequently followed, which I couldn't attend, this concern was raised many times, but the city council members denied that this would be the case. It truly is disappointing and misleading when they knew all along that this study was what this study has concluded. I don't want this change to happen because I don't want more traffic down our street, even if they are going slower, according to the city council. If I ever have to park in the street again, I most definitely would get my car hit because of the tight conditions caused by two-way traffic. I would really appreciate it if this letter could be read aloud tonight. Please consider this. Please don't change our street. We really don't need more traffic. Thank you, Patricia, 608 West 7th Street.
Thank you. Other comments from those present here this evening?
Your Honor, I'm going to check the mic.
Okay, fine, please do. And not related to an agenda item, but there's an agenda item, there will be comments and opportunities at that point as well.
Jason Matthews, 1445 Maple Boulevard, Monroe, Michigan. So talk about roads. Last year, they started on our road and did a poor job, water and gas. Then got cold, so they didn't pave it. This year, we got a letter saying it will be done by expected completion date end of July. And no blacktop still. So it's just basically gravel. So I'm just wondering when that will be done. And quite honestly, the last year and this year, just the unprofessional people that we're hiring to do our work in our city is pretty ridiculous. I had to go out there 3 weeks ago and yell at the guys that were doing the curbs. I don't need to hear them swearing. My kids don't need to hear them swearing. I don't need to hear what they did last night to women. So I would really like us to rethink who we're hiring. Thank you.
Just real quick, I don't know if those circumstances come up, please do make contact with Mr. Lewis or the administration, because that's where we can make impact from the city to those who we have contracts with. Also, for all that's here, because this is not necessarily always the case or not known, but the city weekly puts out a road watch, which gives the updates to all the activities and all the construction projects that are going on. There were some circumstances why that didn't get finished last year. It was outside the city's control, unfortunately, but it did happen. I do appreciate you recognizing why it is an inconvenience. But also the road watch is also available on the city's webpage. I know that they post in the Monroe News. Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Ralph Woodbury, Long Court. On the same vein, I have not seen it online, I've not seen it in the paper. If I have, I missed it, I'm sorry.
That's good.
When is Front Street gonna be paved? It's school starting in 2 weeks. You do not wanna shut down or interrupt a main east-west artery with school starting. That's the history of Monroe. You put a detour on a detour before. School's gonna be starting, it's gonna be crazy. When is this road gonna be paved?
Well, I don't have the road watch in front of me. I was looking at Mr. Pastu. He may have that. I know it was put out. One of the challenges was with the lack of contractors willing to do work is what it's come down to being personnel. Mr.
Well, the sole
Pastu.
bidder that we had for that project is supposed to be back, I want to say this week, actually, setting up, for work to begin next week in earnest, such as milling the streets. So, but
Thank you.
they should be here shortly.
Thank you.
Other comments from those present? Not related to an agenda item? Yes, sir. First, and then I'll go to the gentleman that's in the back.
Yes, Gary Bogadane. I live at 722 Cass Street, and I have an objection to them making Cass Street a two-way street for several reasons. I believe it's too narrow. If you go down to 4th Street towards the city, it's a lot wider. I mean, it'd be great there, but not between 7th and 8th. And also, if you make it a two-way street, you have to exit your car on the street in traffic. And I think it'd be a great hazard for a lot of people to have to do that.
Thank you, Gary. Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Mitchell McNeil, 217 Harrison Street. I own my home. I moved here 2 years ago. I am opposed to turning Harrison Street into a two-way road on behalf of the fact that I have 4 children, one of which has autism. She doesn't handle change very well. I don't really see the point in turning a residential street into a two-way street, especially when it doesn't really lead to any main roads. On behalf of my neighbors, I have a lot of homes that have been converted into apartment buildings. They don't have a lot of parking. Some of them don't have any parking outside of the on-street parking. So I don't really see ways that has been addressed in the upcoming plan to turn that into a two-way street. So, not to mention also Cass Street. It's very similarly a residential street. It doesn't really lead to anywhere but a parking lot. I don't necessarily see the purpose in turning a residential street two-way. I am in favor of clearer signage of do not enter one way or something of the like.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other comments from those present here this evening? Name and address, please.
My name is Laura Lemke. I live at 210 West 5th Street, right around the corner from your proposed changes on Harrison. I was also shocked to find out that you are closing off Cass Street. I do not shop at Walmart. I don't get my groceries at Meijer. I avoid traffic as much as possible. That parking lot at Kroger is terrible, and you're going to funnel everybody out onto that street light, and we all have to make a left-hand turn, and I go to Kroger every day, and I can guarantee you, I am not going to do that, especially after a woman was killed last year at that stoplight. I just want you to also know that I've been very supportive of Monroe, the city of Monroe. I bought my first house in 2010. I purposely bought one so I could be near downtown, so I could do business downtown. I've done business with Brian at the library, at the Book Nook, at the health food store. I walked to the post office and even my bank. I wanted to live near a grocery store where if I wanted to walk there, I could do that also. And I'm really upset by this change you're making. Also, I know that those people on Harrison Street do not have, they don't have driveways. So it's going to be very difficult for them to find parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from those present here this evening, not related to an agenda item? Name and address, please.
Robert Gelbovy, 511 Harrison. I'm opposed to that. I was opposed to it the other meeting I got invited to, and it's going to promote danger for us exiting our cars into the street, and there's no stop sign from 3rd to 6th, and the people just fly down that road. And our road's such disrepair, and they have no plans of repairing it that I was aware of from Patrick Lewis. And that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments not related to an agenda item? Very well. I usually make a comment at the beginning and regarding the rules of the chambers and comments. So I appreciate those that spoken, understanding the time frame in which we have. There's many comments probably made this evening, and appreciate if we ensure our time is within the 3 minutes so we can be clear and concise and yet continue to move forward in the benefit of everybody's comments this evening. Clerk, next item, please.
Is under council action. Item 2526, selection of operator for Arthur Lesau Community Center.
Thank you. I don't know if Mr. Bastu, if you have anything. If not, I'll just start.
Other than what I mentioned during the work session, Your Honor.
Okay. So on tonight's agenda, and I know that there's probably many here that have an interest regarding the council action, which is 2526, selection of the operator for the Arthur Lesau Community Center. I'm going to make some opening comments. I'm going to review some information from the committee that was formed, so those that may have not known what the foundation of how we got to where we are today, and then the recommendation, some information on there which I'll read as well. So I will start by the previous council meeting received presentations from the applicants and the public that was present to hear comments, but also their desire from an applicant to be the operator at the Al-Sisi. There were 3 that were interviewed. The council moved to have a committee formed to hold interviews and then make a recommendation to the full council, which is on today's agenda, which is 2526. The questions were compiled by the input of all the council members and sent to the applicants prior to the interview. So the council put together the items they thought was important to have discussed or asked or pertinent to this decision. The committee met prior to that. Kind of, some were very similar, so we kind of formed those questions, and the city manager was assisting as well. So the questions were sent to the applicants, as I said, because there was many. There was 27 questions, and the time allotment was 50 minutes. And the idea was that opportunity to be clear and concise on those questions and present forward. The council was also later sent the final questions as well. So I'm going to start by saying that the interviews went well. All the applicants were prepared and presented very well. Overall, they went through the questions. They had answers that were prepared, as I said, written. So after the interview, the committee then reviewed the proposals that night. We kind of had a dialogue regarding the questions and other documents that were presented that evening. And that continued with providing input through toward the end of last week. So there were 6 criteria areas where the questions were categorized, and also a conclusion area of the final response. So I'm going to review those, even though I know we did at the meeting, but there may be other people that are here this evening. So the questions fell under these areas: community understanding and vision, organization, community partnership, financial considerations, communications, transition plan, and then there was a conclusion, which was 3 questions that kind of gave the opportunity of the applicant to kind of an overview, but also questions related to the future. So that's where we get to this evening. I'll have to make sure to make comment. It's in the fact sheet as well. So when the committee was formed, it was the mayor, Councilman Felder, and Councilwoman Whitman. However, Councilwoman Whitman was ill and unable to attend for that evening, and felt for consistency, there were others that were interested that were willing to step up, and so Councilman Lamore filled in as the third person that was there. So the 3 of us were the committee, but Mr. Pastu also attended during the interviews. So from that, there's a recommendation that's being made this evening. I know it was brought up at the work session regarding the item about a fill in the blank, and that's because, well, the council packets go out earlier in the week. I believe it was Thursday of last week. There was still some items that were not completed, and so on Friday, as Councilwoman Vining even asked if what the process was going to be, as well as the city manager and I speaking, of notifying the applicants. We thought it best on Friday to call I called the applicants, as well as sending an email to council, as well as calling the council members and either speaking with them or leaving a message, including the clerk treasurer, because it is an agenda item. So the recommendation that came from the committee, which will be, I guess, heard here through the agenda later this evening, was to have a recommendation for the MCOP. So I'm going to read just what was provided to the council, which was the ALCC committee recommendations, and I'm going to read through the introduction that they have, and then also a list of criteria that was, items that were part of the dialogue the committee had, and why this recommendation is being made. So the City Council ALCC Interview Committee, consisting of Mayor Clark, Councilman Felder, and Councilman Lamore. The 3 applicants were interviewed on Tuesday, August 13, 2019. Following the interviews, the committee reviewed the responses within the 6 criteria areas and unanimously has recommended the City Council to move to select MCOP to operate the ALCC effective October 1, 2019, and to direct the city manager to negotiate a lease and funding agreement for the city council approval. That's the recommendation. It's not the final decision will come at the follow-up meeting when the city administration, city manager have those discussions regarding lease and funding agreement. So I'm going to read these through, and the clerk does have a copy of this. It will be part of the council minutes. It'll be part of the record, and will be available as those get finished, usually within a day, and it gets posted as well. So the recommendation is based on the following in relation to MCOP: the longevity of the organization and the board composition of the MCOP consisting of public, private sector, and consumer section participation was viewed most favorably. The governance structure of the MCOP, including policies and procedures and an organizational chart, which included proposed ALCC operations. Clear understanding of the administrative oversight and the contractual relationship between MCOP and the city. Financial stability and documentation presented, including financial procedures, manual, and relationship between finance director and the compliance team. Understanding the importance of transition and the favorable experience in a succession planning. History of reducing government federal funding and success in seeking other private and nonprofit support through diversified program funding model. Experience and in good standing with other nonprofit partners for current MCOP funding or reporting and relationships. Existing community programs of MCOP available immediately and implementation plan for other programs and services. MCOP relationship with established partners to provide additional services, including youth engagement programs. Strong food distribution programs with available volunteer and employee resources. Current significant funding relationship with Commission on the Aging. complete, open, and transparent communication plan on the MCOP website regarding finances, operations, programs, board, annual report, and an active dashboard. Willingness to engage with residents, existing partners, and organizations within the Orchard East community and city. Last item here is outreach to the ALCC and Oaks for support and future partnerships as it moves forward. So that's the item that was presented to the city council from the committee. At this point, it's a council action item. So with that, the committee, I should say, is open to questions from the council or any clarifications that may be needed. And I'll also rely on the committee members if they have other comments that they wish to add along the way. So my first goes to the council, and I know that there's those that may wish to speak, and we'll address that next. I don't know if there's, I'm looking around the council members, but committee members as well, if there's anything, or wait to see if there's questions. John, or Councilman Michelangelo, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. I wouldn't mind hearing from the committee members on the process and the decision-making. I know that you had a series of like 23 questions that the applicants had to, that you gave them the opportunity to advance, to come in prepared for the questions. I'd just like to hear from the committee members on what your reaction to the process was. And so.
I'll go first. Number one, we came in very unbiased. We wanted to make sure that we did not have a selection in mind prior to starting. So that was very important to all of us, the three of us here. And after the 27 questions were asked, I think we all like it said, unanimously came back with the same answer. It was MCOP with the strongest appeal for what we felt was a greatest benefit, not only to the city of Monroe, but to the residents of Monroe. And we saw it as a strengthening factor in the Orchard East neighborhood, as well as involving the rest of the community of Monroe as well. So from that standpoint, that definitely helped my decision process as far as selecting MCOP as a recommendation.
Interview process, each, make sure my mic's on. Each entity was allotted 50 minutes, I think, for responses, and we're, of course, given the questions beforehand so they could come prepared because, of course, we wanted to hear the best that everyone had to offer. We wanted to make sure that they were able to put their best foot forward. And I really think they did. I think all the entities really presented themselves in a very positive light. And if I learned anything, it's that the community of Monroe has such a wealth of talent and volunteerism in service, in an attitude of service in this community that can really accomplish a great deal. Now, we only can select one to run the center, but I would certainly hope that in the future the others stay involved and continue to participate down at the ALCC and in the community more broadly. All of the applicants were very impressive. I think MCOP was very well capitalized, very well organized, very well structured, stable choice that is not going to just last us the 3 years, the proposed agreement, but has a longevity that's going to take us well into the future. And I think that sort of lends the evidence for why it was selected in the way that it was.
One further question for the committee. You know, it's apparent this evening, based on the audience, that the neighborhood is legitimately concerned about the selection of the party that's going to operate the community center. I'm not questioning your decision. I'm just asking for your opinions. After going through the interviews with the three applicants and selecting MCOP, do you feel that MCOP will be transparent and engage the neighborhood and allow for neighborhood input into the operations and the programs that are, not necessarily the operations, but the programs that the neighborhood would like to see? So that's a question I have for the committee.
I'll start and I'll see if the councilmen want to follow up. One of the items that MCOP in the interview, because each had an idea of something they wanted to kind of champion forward, and one of those was exactly along those lines in a long history of service in communities and in the community, but also the idea understanding that in a transition, there's always going to be those that have a personal desire of one of the three that was with the applicants. And one of the items that came out of theirs was really to have an understanding of everybody, because you can even, everybody thinks they might know what something is until you ask. And their intention is to have that engagement, was one of their responses to the question, was their engagement and kind of inquiry. I don't want to call it survey, as much inquiry of the, not only the residents in the Orchard East, but of the community as a whole, and how the certain delivery of service is. I'm going to go make one more comment because it got to the conclusion. I kind of mentioned that. I'm not going to read all the questions. The applicants had them. I know that they have them as well. One of the last questions was your organization's added value to the ALCC. The second question was what about the 3-year lease, and I think that was mentioned already. And is that sufficient time to move forward? And the last question was if another nonprofit is selected to operate the community center, would you be willing to work with them? If so, in what capacity? Every one of the applicants, and I think goes back to where I started about the preparedness and excellent presentations, but also all the applicants said they absolutely would be willing to operate and work with those that is chosen. So to me, that shows promise of the fact that there's a willingness. I also know that prior to the interviews that there was outreach back and forth on MCOP and with the ALCC and Oaks to sit and have a meeting and discuss how this might operate in the future. And the other comment I'll just say is it's not a takeover, it's about cooperation and how we need to move together and to make the center as viable as possible for the community and the city as a whole and broad. So let's see if the councilmen have another comment to your question.
Well, it's an easy one for me. I think one of the key considerations I went in with was ensuring that the current staff of the community center and make this as a sustainable and as smooth transition as possible for them, because it's their source of employment. And I think all three entities, including the one we selected, would take current staff and considerations into account in their decisions moving forward. There is a certain amount of programming that is offered at the community center as of now. The current staff has a great deal of involvement in putting that on, along with many of the volunteers and the other entities that partner with the current ALCC board and the center to put on those programmings, and that looks like it's going to continue in the future with the transition plan that was laid out by MCOP. Now, I don't want to get into the details too much, otherwise this meeting is going to turn into just as long as the committee meeting. That was about 4 hours, so that's about all I got.
Your Honor, I have one last question.
Go ahead.
The center is about as close, regardless of who operates it, the center is about as close as we have to a community development corporation, which typically is not a rec center, but provides services for the youth, for adults, and for elderly, okay? And then a variety of programs that fit within those three demographics. Is it the intention, I'm just asking this as counsel, the one thing with the Community Development Corporation is that they usually have an advisory group from the neighborhood that advises on programs that they feel are needed to address issues in their neighborhood. And is it our intention of having an advisory group of residents that can be part of this process, not running the day-to-day operations, nor if MCOP is selected, not telling MCOP how to run the operations, but advising on what they think are gaps and services that are needed for the neighborhood. So is that something as a group that I'm looking at the mayor, so he's probably already wants to address it, but that's a question that I have.
Well, I think it's a good question. I think it was a question that was it fit in with some of the questions that were asked and how the applicants responded. I will say that in MCOP's response, they exactly said that. They said they will have an advisory commission or council, they called it, of the Orchard area, the city, the schools, and a variety of things that they think would be appropriate to through a transition and facilitation at this time. So that was one of their responses, and probably should have put that on the list of items in which they said. or which they should say, and what the committee took into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from
All I have,
council?
Your Honor.
Councilwoman Viney.
Yeah, Your Honor, I don't necessarily have a question as much as I have some comments. Of course, I no disrespect to the committee, but I do not agree with your recommendation. Some of the reasons that you cited, one that jumps out at me is willingness to engage with residents, existing partners, and organizations within the Orchard East community and city. One thing I wanted to say is that Oaks is already doing that every day. Actually, John said the closest thing we have to a community development corporation is the ALCC. The ALCC has been floundering in programming in those areas for years now. That's why we're here. We all know that. We don't need to go back and discuss that. But those needs are currently and daily being met by Oaks. And so I was a bit surprised. I could go through the list. You want to talk about strong food distribution programs. MCOP is the county's community action network. They're known for facilitating mobile food trucks, which various organizations come in and purchase, and MCOP sets up the dates, the timing, and all that. But Oaks does that every day. I'm surprised because of the things that the committee pointed out. Did you not know that those things are being done by Oaks? Oaks is the closest thing that we have to a community development corporation in the Orchard East neighborhood. As
This isn't a stadium. It's not an arena. We're here to listen and have dialogue. Please refrain from outbursts. That's not what it's for here. We're here to make a tough decision, and a decision based off of how we got here. So just to ask you, please just listen to what's
as
said.
John stated, and as the audience clearly agrees, it is the closest. The things that my issue with MCOP even coming into the into this process is that MCOP is 50 years old. ALCC is 75 years old. I've been working in the Orchard East community for 20 years, and I haven't seen MCOP there in that way. For what they do, housing, being the community housing development organization, and doing food distribution, great. I really don't have an issue with that. But you got to think about people. You got to think about these young people who need to be engaged. They're bored. They're finding other things to do because the lack of programming. But at Oaks, the children who are attending the Oaks programming, you don't see them in the streets with nothing to do. There's the Oaks media team. There's the dance and mime ministry. Um, there's the summer school program. There's the daily food programs because we identified a need in our community that the children weren't getting the regular meals during the summer. If MCOP is distributing food and that's one of their main things that I've seen when asked what type of programming they're going to bring, how come they haven't been in the community before that? When St. Joe's closed all those years ago and the food closet had to move out to MCOP, the families that are in the Orchard East community, they would have to take 3 buses to get to MCOP. How come MCOP didn't provide transportation from their fleet of vehicles to ensure that our residents could reach the food that they needed? That wasn't done. Of course, we know there's no sidewalks on Telegraph, so that adds to the people who don't have the transportation. there's just so much that Oaks does every day. The NAACP, the NA and the AA meetings. I think one of the questions you asked is what's the brand, and to me that's the brand. Oaks identifies a need, and then they come in and they bring solutions to that. I have not seen MCOP operate in that way, on the level and on the daily level, on the ground, doing it every day. Oaks has the largest volunteer base, according to RSVP, in the county. I don't know, I wasn't in the committee, so I'm asking these questions because I wasn't there. I don't know that MCOP has that army of volunteers. The programs, the cultural side, the social programs, the recreational programs, all of these things are happening in our neighborhood already. If ALCC had been more open to partnerships and things like that, I know that Oaks, everything that they do, they try to share that with ALCC. For whatever reason, I don't want to go back there, they weren't receptive to that, or there was no follow through. But that's why, as the mayor or John stated one time, that he suspected that the reason why Oaks is running so many programs is because there was a lack, because ALCC wasn't doing that. So, there's just so much. There's the universal health fair. I understand that you're looking at MCOP's budget, but I wonder if MCOP's budget is mostly earmarked. So yeah, if they have a $3 million budget, how much of that can be instantly applied to get programs started at ALCC? These are questions that are coming up in my mind. I'm disappointed with the recommendation. I think we have the agency. I actually thought it was just a logical choice. I thought everybody was going to see that. But I guess if you're not in the community, you're not on the ground with the people every day, I could see how you could miss that, looking at numbers and looking at things like that, as opposed to looking at the need and the actual individuals who need to be served. Now, of course, the census tract in the Orchard East, of course, we all know is most of the poverty is concentrated for the county, is concentrated in the city. And then within the city, the Orchard East, most of the poverty is concentrated in that neighborhood. So our community block grant funding that we receive, it comes because of those one or two census tracts. MCOP is the Community Action Network. I read through their community action plan, and so they're aware of that because it's all in their report. So it just puzzles me why they hadn't been in that community trying to eradicate poverty in that community in a more aggressive fashion, knowing that that was the target area. That should be the target area, in my opinion. So, as Oaks has been here for 10 years, everybody can see clearly how much they've grown, what they brought to the community, how many people they helped. And I don't see MCOP doing that. Again, for what they do for housing, sometimes when they have the funding, helping people with utility bills and the food boxes, great. But to run a community center and have their finger on the pulse and the heart of the community, it's just not there. And so, of course, I don't support your recommendation. I don't know. I wasn't in the interview, so it baffles me how you came to this conclusion. Um, so it was, I may have something else later, Your
Sure.
Honor. But I just wanted to get that out. Thank you.
So are there questions or even comments from council? Councilwoman Germaini.
I look at this as a combination of organizations working together. I I hear what you're saying. It's not you're looking at one body. I think everybody should work together and accomplish more, and I think that's what we should be trying to achieve. Let's achieve more through what we have by working together. That's how I see it.
Your Honor, if I
Councilwoman.
may respond.
I think
I,
go ahead.
okay. Yeah, I agree that everybody should be working together, but everybody has not been working together. So if we can come together from this point forward, that's great. But if I'm trying to get into position, I can easily tell you what I'm gonna do. But can my past record show that I'm willing to do that? Because again, if I'm the Community Action Network and I'm the Community Housing Development Authority, and I know that this is the low income census tract that I can use to get my federal funding and to get my state funding and to get my private grant funding to help eradicate these issues. And I've been here 50 years. And now I want to come and say, because now there's real estate involved and there's a community center involved, that this is what is in our heart as an organization to do. You haven't shown me in your 50-year track record that that's what you're willing to do. But I can go into an interview and tell you, yeah, I want to work with everybody. I can go have a couple meetings with ALCC, but ALCC been struggling publicly for 3 to 4 years. Where were these agencies when now the city was there? The city, we came in, we spent money, we spent time and resources to try to help ALCC. I didn't see these other agencies doing that. So yeah, I get what you're saying, that we all need to work together, and that's great. We all do need to work together, but we should have all been working together. Oaks has been working with ALCC on so many projects. I could show you so many grants that Oaks sent directly over to ALCC. Hey, here's an opportunity. Here's an opportunity to partner with. Now, I can't do anything about the fact that they didn't follow up on those things. But Oaks has been there. They have held up the ALCC where the public wouldn't have to see them fail. That's what Oaks has been doing since they hit the ground. It's just so much. There's Monroe Public Schools. Everybody read in the paper, they got a $1.2 million grant to assist with youth programming. I don't know that MCOP is a part of that grant, but I don't believe they are. But I know that Oaks is a part of that grant. I know that tomorrow, if we voted for Oaks to take over the community center, 5 programs that can immediately start. They don't have to go find volunteers. They don't have to build partnerships and relationships to run these programs because they already exist. Part of what we talked about is we need to move with all deliberate speed. So MCOP is going to have some work to do to be brought into the community, welcomed into the community, and those type of things. Oaks is already a vital part of the heartbeat of the Orchard East community. So yeah, we can all say we're gonna work together, but have we been working together? Not all of us. But now we want to say we're gonna work together. I mean, you gotta show me. You know, I understand. I'm not trying to say that MCOP is not an important organization. I'm not trying to say that MCOP is not there for a reason, but I'd be curious to see how much of the funding goes outside of the city and out county as opposed to into the city where MCOP has identified is the most poverty in the city. So that's all I'm saying. I hope that everybody will work together, and I hope that the volunteers will continue to come and help at the community center. But I can't see how we would think the transition would be any smoother than to have the people that are already in the community doing the work be set up to do that work.
Other questions or comments? I don't know if the committee has any comments or, Councilman Michelangelo?
I'll make it short, Your Honor. I guess I take a look at it a little bit different in terms of the committee's recommendation. We have hopefully the neighbors can understand this. You have the community, the Orchard East community, has the opportunity now to have two different agencies, Oaks and MCOP, providing services in the neighborhood. Each one has their strengths. Each one has their own partnership. Each one brings in their own type of funding. So I look at it from the fact that we used to just have Al-Sisi, which the council identified 3 or 4 years ago is not really performing all that well. And I understand, that Reverend Boone has brought in programming to kind of fill the gap or the needs. But from a programmatic point of view, I think it's always great when you have two agencies that are working in a neighborhood to provide services to the community. So I don't think it's going to be a matter of competition or overlap. I think it's going to be, we can have an opportunity here to have different programs operating out of different agencies, working in partnerships to provide more to the neighborhood. That's how I look at it. I'm sure Oaks and I'm sure the Reverend, if MCOP is selected by council, will form partnerships working together. And I think it's only going to benefit the neighborhood. It's not going to subtract from it. So I think there's a great opportunity here to have a different model than what we've had in the past, where we only had one agency that's been providing services to the neighborhood. Maybe now we have two, and they both can leverage their own resources and bring in different programs that really meet the needs of the neighborhood. I see the Reverend shaking her head in agreement with that. I hope that would be the case in terms of building great partnerships. So that's how I look at it, Your Honor.
Well, I will take comments from those. Okay. As I said earlier, I will take comments from those here if you wish to. Obviously, there's many people here that may have comments they want to make sure that we keep it within the time frame because we do want to hear what you have to say. But at the same time, we have to be respectful of everybody's time in the conversation. I'll see if there's any other comments from the council before we go to those that are present. Councilman Felder.
Thank you, Your Honor. Councilwoman Vining, I would, many of your comments, I don't know that I disagree with any of the good works that Oaks of Righteousness is doing to help our community thrive and grow. I think those are all good things. I think that many good things could be said of all of the applicants that applied. I think any of your questions that were asked, they were all, as I was going through, I was checking them off, and we discussed every single one of them, and there were answers to pretty much every single one of them. And although there are good things that could be said of any of the entities, there's probably that same good thing that can be said of one, if not both of the other entities that were applying. The city, I think, was blessed in such a way as to have very capable nonprofits come to the table when we raised our hand and asked for help and said, guys, we have an issue over here. We would like your support in dealing with this. And the community answered the call. And several actors came forward and said, we can help with this. And we really appreciate that. And in terms of working together, one of the questions in the interviews that was asked is whether or not you're selected, how do you plan on working with these other nonprofits that are capable, that are in your area, that have talent, have volunteers, because they all have volunteers, that can help out and perform the good acts that need to be done in our community. And I think those exist everywhere you look. I don't know that you could single out and say these are the good works of this one. I think those are absolutely true, and I don't disagree with those. But I think that those can be said of all of them. I agree with you that poverty is certainly a consideration. Your census tract and being one opportunity zone of the city in your precinct, and my precinct being the other opportunity zone of the city, poverty is a concern of mine. It certainly is. Poverty rate in the county of Monroe is floating around 10%. Poverty rate in the city of Monroe is floating around 20%. We're above the county average, we're above the state average, we're above the national average. That's a problem. We need to do something about that. And I know the entity that we selected really prioritized poverty alleviation is one of the things they wanted to focus on. It's part of the reason why they were selected. They wanted to promote self-sustainability. They have programming that they're going to bring in day one to do that. It's part of the reason why they were selected. Have a little faith that the members of the committee and your colleagues ask the right questions and really drill down. I don't want to give too many details because then we're getting into why certain people were not selected as opposed to the good things about all of them. Because there were those discussions as well, but having those here sort of eliminates the purpose of why the committee even met in the first place. So the concerns were addressed, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Councilman Lamore?
Yeah, and just to go a little bit off of Councilman Langely's comments about having 2 versus 1, Oaks, there's no denying Oaks is a great place for our community. It is fantastic, and what Pastor Boone has done has been fantastic. All the volunteers, fantastic. I think when you bring in MCOP, you get one more fantastic place that's going to bring that not only to the neighborhood, but to the community. And that was one of my concerns. The community is not active in the Al-Sisi. And when you bring in the MCOP, I think it brings in that other element. So it's looking at a more broader view than just saying the neighborhood. I think they can bring elements that are going to enhance the neighborhood as well as the community. And that's not to say that Oaks wouldn't do the same, but I think that they have a more powerful resource when it comes to that. And that was my basis for my decision.
I guess I'm just going to follow because it's very same conversation that we had as the committee. And it's not a question that Oaks provides service to the community. That's not the question. It never was. But as we went through these different areas, there's those that elevated in some areas higher than the other. And when you take it collectively versus individually of the sections or areas is how we came to that decision as we talked it through. So that's why the decision was made for the recommendation. There are many things that is very apparent when you go to learning about MCOP. If you go to their site, it's all right there. And that's, to me, is significant because not only is it I'll just say providing information on what they do and how they do it, but also the and what they do with the funding. You asked about where the funding that is, the dashboard that's there. You see the progression of a time. It's not their annual reports there. There's other reports that are there. If you want to go see it, it's right there. You don't have to go find it. You don't have to go elsewhere. And I think that speaks well to an organization in a governance model that I think is what is closest aligned with the city is. And then we have to be a partner in a contractual arrangement of providing that information. And I think that's one of the criteria that came out as well. Councilwoman, did you have a follow-up?
Yes. Again, it's not that I'm here to knock MCOP. I'm here to advocate firstly for my precinct and the people who live in my community and to speak for what I've heard from the members of my community. Again, the same way, if we select Oaks, I would hope that MCOP would come and bring their programs and, continue to want to work in the community. I don't have an issue with that, but I'm here to advocate for what I am hearing from my precinct. And another thing is we talk about the city as a whole, but the ALCC is a neighborhood center. Whether we want to say it or not, that's what it is. That's what it's always been from its original founding. It was founded to address some of the juvenile delinquency issues in the city, and specifically in the east side of the city. So that's just what it is. It's a neighborhood center. Yeah, would we like to have more? That would be great. But we've never, as a community center, not welcomed the community as a whole, even the county. And of course, everybody knows of the program and we had in the past where people from throughout the county have been there, and it's the same now. So I'm here to advocate for what I believe that the people of specifically the 3rd precinct would like to see. So it's not to knock MCOP, their efforts and the work that they do. And I said that from the beginning. So it's not to say, yeah, I could sit here and tick off all the good things I think about each entity and all the bad things I think about each entity, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that MCOP is not welcome in the neighborhood to do programming. I asked earlier, where had they been? So I'm there on the ground every day. So I know what it takes. I know it looks good to be able to go on a website and see numbers and things, but I'm there with the people. So I guess, I have a different view. And then as we established a couple meetings ago, I've interacted in all 3 agencies. So I think that I have a unique insight to how it's going to look when it happens. Also, like Monroe News wrote a editorial, and they pointed out that I had even voted yes to terminate the lease with ALCC, and that that's saying a lot, that the council person who previously served on the board from that precinct made that statement. So I hope it can speak just as loudly and clearly that the council person from that precinct, who's been doing program personally in that building for 20 years, that my opinion here tonight, because I wasn't on the committee, will be heard just as loudly and clearly as it was when I voted yes to terminate the lease with the ALCC. So I'm not knocking any one entity. I see the value in both entities. So I want to clear that up. I see the value in both entities, and just personally, I think one entity is doing more work towards the mission of than the other. That's just what I think. So, it's not to say I'm knocking one group or the other. I'm just stating my position, who I think should be in the, and clearly just looking out through the room. It's not like we get packed houses that often. So, I mean, the people are here to speak, so I'll be quiet.
Okay, so this is a council action item that will have a motion and action of whatever sort is made. But with that, I'll take the opportunity for public comment. Again, mindful of the time, so we can be clear and concise of what your position is, and we can move forward. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. So Pastor Heather Boone, 924 East 2nd Street, Monroe, Michigan. And yes, I was shaking my head because I am in complete agreement that it is wonderful when you have more than one group working together. And for Oaks, we have worked with many, many groups within, the city. But I think what is frustrating for me is that we have been there. We're 7 years old. So Oaks was founded 7 years ago. At ALCC is where we had our first service. Since those last 7 years, every time there was a need in the Orchard East community, Oaks has absolutely stepped up to meet the need, to be involved. How can we help? How can we support? Even Councilman Felder, I assume you're in the area near Greenwood, the other census tract area where there's the poverty. Is that where it is, or no? Is it Greenwood is his part of his?
No.
That's still in yours? Okay, because I was gonna say, Michelle Germaini, we have lunch at Kiwanis, and I'm there with Nancy Wayne every single week. We're discussing how we can support those residents at Greenwood every single week. How can we help residents who are possibly about to get evicted, not from federal funds, not from state funds, but from church funds? With Oaks, we have been making bricks without straws, and I made this comment, which means we've been doing what we've had to do with no resources. When we saw that St. Joe's was up for sale, the church members at St. Joe's came to us and they said, can you purchase this building? Can you keep the spirit of St. Joe's alive? And we absolutely did, but we had to fight city council and the Archdiocese of Detroit for that building. We had to fight. So now to see another agency that has millions come in, and 3 years ago, I was at the city council meeting when there was the first talk about get rid of ALCC. I was right there 3 years ago. I've been there the whole time, every time there was a meeting about ALCC. I've been right here. So to hear an agency come in now that there is grant funding and there's a building is almost a little bit of a slap in the face. Just gonna be honest with you. And I'm saying this because we personally, our church, we've been over there supporting. The people in this room, we've been there working, struggling. So now the Community Action Agency can come. We purchase food from them. Every single week, we as a church purchase food. We're not giving it, we purchase it to give it to the families in the community. Every single day of the week, including Sunday, we will give away food. So my frustration is I looked at MCOPs, and if we had a bunch of money, I'm an unpaid pastor. I don't take 1 cent to pastor, have never taken 1 cent to pastor or do anything with Oaks, because this is my heart and this is my passion. So if we had millions, yes, we could have beautiful websites, we could have all kind of spreadsheets and all kind of wonderful stuff. So to look at it and see graphs where every part that's highlighted very heavily is the area I live in. And for you to say you're the Community Action Agency, but in 10 years that I've been in Monroe, because I pastored another church in Monroe 3 years prior to that, for 10 years, you've not done anything except sent a food truck over there. That to me is a little frustrating. And yes, I absolutely will work with whoever is in that community center, because those are my people and those are my neighbors, and I'm not going anywhere. So yes, I will work, but I'm just letting you know that I think that the city, first of all, I want to say this. When we had the event and the children were here for the ice arena, you called the children in and had them sit down all over the floor. We didn't do that. You acknowledged children, school-aged children in the process. These children were not acknowledged. I understand that maybe these children, which in the city strategic plan, the minorities, those who are struggling, they may not be on your agenda, but they are on my agenda every single day. Thank you.
Okay.
Your Honor, I just have to respond to that one comment. The city council, when we had the ice arena, the city council didn't ask for all the kids to come up and sit in front of us.
Absolutely not.
That was done by the Hockey Association to have all the kids with their jerseys on sit here as a way of trying to get us to focus on what they thought was their need. The city council did not ask for the kids to come up. They were already sitting there when the council meeting started, okay? So I just want to clear that up.
So we're going to move forward, and I see there's a line of people that wish to speak. Again, 3 minutes, please, so we can move forward through this. Yes, ma'am. Name and address.
Good evening, Council. My name is Reverend Gloria Hawkins, and I'm at 1520 Hampton Court. And I just want to kind of tell you guys a story. There was a prophet by the name of Samuel in the Bible, and he went to look for a king. And he went down to a house to look for this king, and he looked at this one guy, and he was this man's son, and the guy was kind of tall. And he began to ask God, he said, "Is that him?" God said, "That's not him." He looked at another son, and he said, "God, is that him?" God said, "That's not him." He began to ask this man, he said, "Do you have any other sons?" And he said, "Yeah, I got a little raggedy, little stinky boy that's out there in the field, and he pastures the sheep. Surely," I'm paraphrasing, "surely you don't want him." They went and got that little boy whose name was David. And when they brought David to the prophet, he heard God say, "This is the one. God said that man looks at the outer appearance, but I look at the heart. You may look at I don't even know their initials, okay? Because I haven't been here but a year, and I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be funny. But I do know we tend to look at the appearance of people, what they have, what they're bringing. But God says, I look at the heart. And I'm going to say something to you all as I was sitting there. I started not to say anything, but I thought about something. I moved down here in 2018 to help this woman. And when I moved down here, I have a master's degree in divinity from a fully accredited college, okay? Not no Facebook, not no online stuff, but I went to the real stuff, okay? And I'm saying that for a reason. I have a license. I'm a registered dental hygienist, okay? But I volunteered her place every day, Monday through Friday. I've been down here since 2017, so I'm telling you, whoever goes in there, you got to go in there with love. These children are just beginning. This is 2019, and they just beginning to speak to me and hug me. And I've been down here all this time. I had to pour in that much love to them and show them that I wasn't playing. So if you're coming, whoever's coming in, if you're not coming in with a heart of love, they're not going to respond to you, and you'll be there another 3 years trying to get stuff up when you already got the heart there. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Reverend. So, hold on, please, thank you. Next, go ahead. Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Kalinda Thomas. I live at 422 East Chester, and I'm a resident of the Orchard East Community Center area. My family have benefited from Oaks of Righteousness and their resources. When my son graduated, I received a grant from Oaks to help him with his first year of college. My family members have benefited also from the Warming Center, some from the AA meetings held at Oaks. We frequently went to St. Joe's for toiletries and things like that. When Oaks started to help them with that, we continued it there. My children enjoyed the boxing with Coach Todd there, and also attended the summer camps there. We also were able to receive physicals for our school football at the Universal Health Aid at Oaths of Righteousness that was held there this year. My family and I just want to say thanks again to Oaks. And most definitely, I've been here for about 10 years now. And I've also went to MCOP for assistance or different other, government agency places. But I can honestly say that Oaks has the resources to help out the people. And that's the only organization I've seen literally working with the people, hands-on. And I understand that financially it's okay, but to work with the people hands-on, that's what this community is about. Thank you.
Name and address, please.
My name is Mary Messer. I live in Newport, but I am an RSVP member and I do a class at Al-Sisi. I support Kelly in everything she said. All I heard out of the rest of the council was numbers and administration. You said nothing about the people. That hurts. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
My name is Delbra Blackshear. I'm at 1765 North Custard Road. I was born in Monroe, Michigan, and left Monroe when I was about 8. Moved to Toledo, Ohio. Moved back to Monroe. Of course, my brother was against it. He didn't understand why did I come back to Monroe. Monroe's a beautiful little town. But Mayor, I want to share something with you, and I've been fighting back the tears because it's very hurtful when I think about this. When I was a little girl in Monroe, I was headed to Orchard School, and I was cold. I was 5 years old. I was in the kindergarten. I was freezing cold. My nose was snotty. I couldn't tell you where my parents were. I remember my brother kept telling me to hurry up. Come on, come on. And I cried all the way to Orchard School, where when I got to that school, there was no one there that looked like the color of my skin. And when I went into my kindergarten class, my hands was freezing, and I reached for my teacher's white sweater. She snatched that sweater from me and told me my hands was dirty. What concerns me is who's coming in to work with the children on the East End. Will they snatch their sweater? There's a lot of children on the East End that has dirty hands. A lot of children on the East End who have broken families. A lot of children on the East End that are looking for someone to give them a helping hand. I understand business. I truly do. Even the committee who selected the organization that they selected are not from the East End. I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but what I am saying is that if you all don't come together and figure out a way to lift up that community that's been so neglected so long, it's not going to be good. I think Pastor Boone has done a wonderful job, and I think everyone knows that. And I'm concerned if another organization come in there, will they be able to wrap their arms around them kids who got dirty hands? Around them kids who might have one shoe on and one shoe off? Will they be able to work with them babies? Because if they're not, they're wasting their energy and wasting their time. So I'm praying that you all come together and figure it out, because ALC went far too long over there not doing what they were supposed to be doing. And now it's a big mess over there. And those children and those families over there have been let down. So I don't think it just ends with this organization. I think the entire Monroe, city of Monroe, need to be held accountable for how the East End has been neglected. And I'm hoping that no baby has to go and be treated like the way I was treated, because there was no one there who looked like me.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
Darius Hudson, 632 West 9th Street. I want to start with a question. What is your motivation? Because I have 7 felonies. 7 of them. So it's hard for me to get a job. It's hard for me to get, I got in Michigan State, but it was really hard because of what was behind me. So I'm hearing them tell what's behind MCOP, but y'all not noticing that. They won't give me a job because of what I did 20 years ago. But 2 years ago, they didn't show up. They weren't there. But you forget that. I'm here. Oaks helped me start my own company. Oaks helped me get my life together. I'm the person who y'all see who you really don't want to help and don't think there is no help for. But 20 years later, it is. And what I'm saying is it comes because my past can't be seen. Can be seen, but you can't see this. Please see that they didn't help. We need Oaks because Oaks is here for us. It's been here for my family, for my children, and in this community. So it's got to be a motivation behind this. It may seem absurd, but you're so set in saying this, but MCOP has not been here. So what is your reasoning? They can partner? Well, why didn't they partner? I don't get this. You want this to happen, but it didn't happen. So you're going to force it to happen afterwards? You're going to make it happen because it didn't happen. So you want water out of a rock.
Sir, name and address, please.
My name is Wallace Wilkes. I reside at 309 and a half Adams. I not too long ago moved out of the shelter at Righteous Oaks. There was a time a few months ago where I was homeless, clothesless, hungry, and I was activityless. MCOP was very helpful. I'm not going to say they were helpful. I went to them, and they put me on the list for everything I just said. And to this day, I'm still on that list. Since being on that list, Oaks has taken care of every last one of those needs because they're at the heart. They know what's needed. And my problem with MCOP is this, is that we live in a time where corporations rule, whether they're profit or non-profit, corporations rule. And they have a tendency to put profit over people. See, I know MCOP may look good to you on paper, but I challenge you to look into the eyes of these community, of these people, because the profit actually is in the people, not in the paper. Okay? So I just want to say this, is that when we say community center, we actually are talking about these children. That's what the community center is about. It's about the children. It's about your future, because they are our future. The problem with MCOP is that by the time they come to address the needs of these children, they would have grown out of those problems and those issues, and that will not be addressed. So I want to ask you to go past your normal politics, your normal beliefs, and look these people in the eye and see these people as profit, and do something for the people of your community. I mean, for real. Put your money where somebody's going to be about it. Not good on paper. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
241742. That's what they call me in prison. My name is Milton Dunham. I said 724 Rotor. I didn't volunteer to work down the Oaks. Pastor Boone volunteered me. Okay? And it was a blessing because I'm a disabled veteran with a closed head injury. I'm a wartime veteran. I've been on Paula since Paula had blonde hair and I still had hair since lifetime, you know what I'm saying? But the thing is that, we see things other people don't see. The rate of recidivism is so high in prison, not because of drugs and alcohol, but because of lack of compassion. Okay? I was a monster. I know what a monster is. You see what I'm saying? I've been shot, I've been stabbed, I've been molested. That list goes on and on. I've been. But my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ chose to resurrect me in a different way, okay? A business cannot resurrect a person like me. A community can, okay? I see kids every single day coming to hungry, hurt. Talk to one guy, he's embarrassed about his parents. Other kid, somebody's been touching him, whatever, you know what I'm saying? A business can't see the pain he's in, okay? But a community can. Because I'm scared to go to a business and tell them something because all they're going to do is put my paperwork on the desk and give it to somebody else. Because if you don't have a community like this, you'll get somebody like me, okay? And I'm not saying I'm a bad person to them, not at all. God resurrected me from that. But the thing is, there was somebody that showed me some compassion. There was somebody that said, I believe in you. There was somebody that said that I trust in you. Not just somebody on the computer, click, go see him. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a multitask job her and her husband have. Okay, not just to say hallelujah and thank you Jesus, but come on in and sit down. Showing young ladies how to carry themselves. Show young men how to carry themselves. I can't get that from somebody on the computer passing my paperwork down to somebody else. I can get that all through this neighborhood. I mentor some of these kids. With Kyle, little sister. I like to go home with nice men. I did something good today for somebody. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of convicts don't do that, and it scares me to have to think that somebody will take my place that don't want to volunteer. A volunteer shows love, okay? If you're just getting a paycheck, you just going to do what that paycheck tell you to do. But if you're a volunteer, you also, that it takes more than one potato and a half a carrot and a piece of meat to make a stew. Okay, so MCOP, all well and good. Mix it up, make a good stew. Because if you don't have enough ingredients in it, it won't be a stew. Okay, and all I'm saying is that why do I need a map if I'm already at the destination? Bottom line, I ain't gotta look for love. Love is right. Look at the love in here. That's love. Not somebody saying, well, I can't take you right now. Come back tomorrow. God never told me to come back tomorrow. He said, stand up today. Good.
Name and address, please.
Okay, I typed mine.
Sure.
Okay, so one thing I would say is many people who are here tonight are here because of the center. Look at everybody. Okay, so I can tell you that, one second. But how many people of you can say you benefit the center? I can tell you that Pastor Boone can say that. If you give them give the building to MCOP, I'm pretty sure you're going to have another problem with kids showing up, because I'm telling you now, they're not going to. I was here the last time that the center had a budget cut or something, and I'm just telling you that I'm tired of people making decisions for the center who don't understand the center. If we want more connections, or if you want another element that has been in our community longer than Oaks, and now all of a sudden they want to help, MCOP can connect with Oaks, because I do believe that the center should go to them. It's their community and they want to make a change, so why not let them? Many people, sorry. I'm just going to get straight to the point, saying that the best person who would fit the center is Pastor Boone. Everything that Pastor Boone owns is getting turned into something that benefits the community. I'm going to tell you now that many ideas that the kids have at the center, they were not listened to by the previous owners or anyone in the past, really. I can say Pastor Boone's going to listen to them, and she's going to do something with them. So some of the kids are saying, because they were hearing like what was happening, is they're not gonna come. Like, they don't think that they should go to the center if the things that are happening at the center aren't gonna benefit them, but other kids in our community. But the main focus should be on them, considering that's where they live at. We need to look at what's going to benefit the kids and how we can make the center grow in numbers of kids and who goes there. And we need to be able to expand in numbers and have other kids from around the community come. I do agree with that, but we need to focus on the main problems at the center, and that is the kids who go there. And Pastor Boone has been involved with the center to know where their strengths and weaknesses are, but not just at the center. She takes what needs to be addressed around the community and she finds the solution to make it better. So we need someone who has a passion for what they do and not just want to make them look better. And I think Pastor Boone does that.
Name and address, please.
Omar Furden, 327 Arbor. Wow, big day for you guys. Tough decision. I do not envy you guys at all. I want to ask a question, and then I want to make a comment. I know I got 3 minutes. My first question, I looked on the city council website, and I seen you guys had the questions that were presented to the committee, but there was no answers there. And I was just hoping to be fully transparent with the city. I was hoping you guys could post the answers so that I can get a better understanding of how you guys got to where you were. I know what you guys asked, I read the questions, but I don't know what the answers were, so I don't know how you guys came to your decision. So, Mr. Mayor, I don't expect an answer now, but I would hope that maybe, if possible, it can be posted so that I can check on it and see it and on my own time. So that's my question. Now to my comment. Everybody's up here talks about who they want and their opinion on it. I am in a position where I don't have to make a decision. I'm not you guys. But I do want to use my time to talk about something. And I want to be transparent. I love Pastor Boone. I love Stephanie at MCOP. I work both with them. I know both personally, and I work with both them in a professional through my community and my outreach and my little stuff that I do. Some I work with more than others, and that's that. But today is a big decision. It's a tough decision. Today isn't a decision for just the east side. It's not a big decision for the city. It's a big decision for everybody. It affects the way people are going to view you guys. It affects the way the city's going to grow. So today is a huge decision. It's very big. It's going to have a lasting impact. But you know, the one thing I hate about this is this placed two beautiful organizations. They both do great things, and it's pitted them against each other, and it's made it real ugly. It's been mudslinging on both sides. People have opinions, and they do it because they just have opinions, and they're all opinions, and how we feel our own certain way. So that breaks my heart. I don't want to hear anybody talk about any. It's bad. It doesn't. It's not positive. It doesn't progress anything. But at the end of the day, change is good, and that's what we're getting at. We're getting some change. Out of change, we get growth. I'm gonna mention growth a couple times today. Growth is good. Change is good. It's scary. I don't know who you guys are gonna pick. I mean, I kind of think who you guys are gonna pick. And either way it goes, it's scary. But as a citizen, I'm in a great position because I got two organizations fighting to service me and my community needs. I volunteered at the Orchard Community Centers or at the Arthur Community Center since I was a kid. I've worked with 7 different directors, volunteering in small capacity up to major capacities. I've tried to do programs at the center. I've done all kinds of things. So I'm blessed because I have 2 agencies that want to work for us and want to do good. Regardless of who you guys pick, both the agencies have agreed and gave their word and promised to work with each other. So me as a community activist and community organizer in the Orchard East community, I'm blessed because I believe that I'm going to call both their bluffs. whether they are or they're not. And both the people who are in those positions have proven to me that they both will help me out when I need to. At what capacity and the level that they do, we'll see, and I will call their bluff. I can't wait to work with whoever it is, and I am lucky. So this is an opportunity for us to grow and to unite. So what I'm saying to you right now, Mr. Mayor, I'm only saying it to you because I know the whole city sees this on YouTube Live, on your public access channel, on everything. I want the city to know this is a great opportunity for us to grow. It's a great opportunity for us to unite. Yes, what happened in the past with ALCC it was a bad example, but we can learn from that. There are no such things as mistakes in life. There are only lessons if we choose to learn from them. So as a community, the city of Monroe, every volunteer, every agency, this is an opportunity for us all to grow, for us to unite, and to make the city better. So I went past my time. I just want to tell you guys, thank you. I don't envy you guys. And as a city, can we please grow? And I plan to call the bluff with both agencies. Thank you.
Thanks, Omar. Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Robert Tucker, 964 Adam Street. I want to say I came here 4 years ago, and I've been to MCOP. I've been trying to use every resources that this city has required. Couldn't find really no help. So met this woman of God named Pastor Boone. I think that you guys need to reconsider your recommendation. Really. I just know that I have 3 boys that I'm raising and this community is raising. You can't find this nowhere. Pastor Boone and what Oaks brings to the table is we need it everywhere. We need it everywhere. I mean, thank God for MCOP. Thank God for every program and things like that. But the books, you ain't gonna find the heart in no book. You ain't gonna find this kind of heart in the book. So I just want to say thank you, Pastor Boone. You're doing an awesome job, Britain and Oaks of Righteousness. And for you all that is bold as making this decision, I just think you guys should have had the community vote on this decision. Not just, I don't know how many is y'all up here, but the community should have been the one that really had to make this decision.
Thanks, Ron.
I think I turned it off. All right.
Name and address, please.
Yeah, Christopher Slatt, 33 East Front Street. I don't really have a horse in this race, which means I'm inclined to listen to the voices of the people in the community who are served by the ALCC, many of which are here tonight. But my concern is more with the process rather than the decision or the intentions behind how you've approached this. I first came here in last year, more than a year ago, and at the time the public-facing discussion was that you wanted to cut the ALCC budget in half because you were afraid of the DTE stuff. Turns out there were some ulterior motives about that, and it was really a way to put pressure on the ALCC board. Okay. Then next thing I knew, there was a surprise agenda item to terminate the lease of the ALCC board at a meeting where there were no ALCC members present. Little fishy, okay. And then what happens is we get a closed door session, a sub-quorum meeting held specifically to circumvent the Open Meetings Act. Now, I have journalism in my blood. I have strong feelings about the Open Meetings Act and the general concept that people in democracy deserve to hear exactly how their elected officials are making decisions. So again, I don't have a horse in this race, but if you want people to go out of here and think that the city doesn't care about their community, if you want people to think you're trying to throw the LCC under the bus, if you want to read conspiracy theories on Facebook about how you're selling the place to the battlefield, if you want the reputation of or the legitimacy of the incoming organization to be maligned, then you should, keep doing things by surprise and behind closed doors. But that's not democracy. I think democracy looks a lot more like what's in this room tonight, and I hope you listen to those voices as you make your vote on this issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. I'm just going to make a clarification because when there's comments said that aren't complete, I always like to think there's 2 sides of the ledger, and half is a comment, the other half is what transpired and why. I'm going to start with the budget cut in half of the ALCC. That was never proposed by the council. What it was is to get the process in place, and half the budget was there to make sure that we made the achievements and the success that was needed, and the second half was then made available. So I want to clarify that. I agree there's enough conspiracies out there to think what it is. So there's other comments, but I'll pass on those about the session and how they came to be, and the agreements with the applicants of how the process was. It wasn't a quorum of council that was on the committee, it was 3. Name and address, please.
Sonia Hudson, 632 West 9th Street. I am here just to let you guys know what I think. One of the things that I was raised on is that actions speak louder than words. And looking at that word action, MCOP is a community action agency with a substantial budget. That's a great thing. The problem with that is that I work at Oaks front desk. I volunteer 40 hours a week to Oaks to help rebuild a community that's been very, very torn down for very long. And what I can say is that we care. And we care, and I can prove that we care because our actions show that we care. Within a year's time, we give out about 2,000 emergency food boxes. At the last meeting that was concerning this issue, Stephanie had mentioned how that was one of the things that she wanted to bring to the community center. And in all due respect, I have to say that I disagree with Councilman Iko Angeli in that we don't need any duplicate services. There are so many services that are in need in that community. The last thing we need is another agency to come in and give services that we have already been providing at Oaks. And with that, you know, if that was the case, if they really had a care to help the community, then we wouldn't have to purchase all of the food from MCOP, along with the donations that we have received throughout the community to provide those emergency food boxes. Monday through Monday, we do those. We have also, you know, partnered with Al-Sisi numerous times. I myself stayed in a lock-in at the center as a mentor for the girls that were staying there, teenage girls, you know, and I'm there for them, and they know that. When Al-Sisi needed cereal, we don't have a large pantry at Oaks. There's not a big budget, but what we do have is a big heart. And we showed up and we gave cereal. We called Anthony and had him come and pick up a large donation of cereal. We didn't have any back pantry or any funding to fall back on. But what we did do was clear our pantry for Al-Sisi because that's how we care, and that's what we did, was we showed that we cared with what we did. We don't need a community action agency at Al-Sisi. What we need is a take action agency at Al-Sisi, and that's what Oaks has done. That's what I love about going there, because I know that what I want to do to help the community, it can be done. There's no red tape. We do things in decency and in order, but ultimately we do things to get things done. Whatever happens with the center is going to affect everyone here today, even the people who feel like there's no connection to the center. Because ultimately, like I said, 3 years ago when the center came up in a meeting, there's only one high school, Monroe High. All of the kids, whatever elementary they go to, whatever community they're raised in, they're going to end up at Monroe High. So we need to do whatever we can at the beginning stages to help them, to build them up so that they can be a benefit to this community. And honestly, I'm kind of discouraged in our city council, because I was here at the last meeting, and I do feel like there was an agenda. I know Councilwoman Vining really had a heart and wanted to take part in the committee, but she was talked down by many that I'm looking at today that said that no, it wasn't a good idea, it could be a common interest. Well, we needed somebody to be on that committee that cared. We needed somebody who knew, somebody that was at the ground level. We needed her there, because if she would have been there, I don't know that the committee would have reached the decision that they did. And ultimately, it's not set in stone, so I'm hoping that you guys, being our elected officials, can see the community's outcry for a change. We elected you. And if you were to take a vote today who we, your people, would want in this ALCC, I guarantee you it's not who you want in the ALCC, because we're not looking at the statistics. But I can guarantee you, if you give Oaks a chance, we can do that. We can make a fancy website. We can give you numbers. I sat down and made numbers for you within a couple of hours, because we have everything written down. We have all of the receipts that we paid to MCOP to be able to have supplies to fit the need for that community. I have all the names and the addresses of the people from Temperance to the East Side, families that we have helped with our emergency food boxes. We care. We may not be the community action agency, but we are the agency, the nonprofit organization that takes action in the community. And I hope that you guys can see that. And like I said, nothing's been set in stone, so please hear my cry. I'm begging you. I voted. I'm a very avid voter. I will vote until the day I die. Show us that our votes matter.
Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Sam McCormick, 921 Washington Street. I was privileged to meet a young man. I've been volunteering at Oaks for about a year now. My wife has been there for 5 years. We've been married 10 months. That's why she got there before me. I was privileged to meet a young man that came through the Oaks homeless shelter. My wife had known him, of course, before me. This past winter, he was a convicted felon. And at the point that I met him, he had secured a job, had secured housing through Oaks, had helped him secure housing. He was walking from Stony Point to Detroit Avenue to work every day in the cold, in the snow. And we were able to work with him. He secured a learner's permit. He'd never had a 27 years of age, never had a driver's license, never owned an automobile. So we were privileged to work with him to help him secure his learner's permit. Later, he passed his driver's test. An appeal was put on Facebook by one of the members of Oaks Church, and an automobile was donated for him to drive. Today, he's got a better job. He's secured a good job through Oaks of Righteousness. He's on his way. And it brought me back. I came to Monroe at 18 years of age. I lived on East Chester Street with my grandmother. My cousin got me a job at Kmart. I walked through the snow 3.3 miles from East Chester to Kmart to work. I came with a suitcase of clothes and $40 that my brother had given me. I was raised in the housing projects in eastern Kentucky. My father died 2 months before I was born. There was no agencies, there was no outreach to us whatsoever. And so when I became involved with this young man, it brought me back to sometimes we take things for granted as life goes on. I'm 66 years of age. We just kind of take things as having a driver's license, having a job. We take those things for granted, and it brought me back. It brought me to tears when I came to this city at 18 years of age. I had no driver's license. I was living with my grandmother. I had nothing. But yet, by the grace of God, He has blessed me. And I've had those things. And I guess the point that I want to make is that I was privileged to help this young man, 27 years of age, a convicted felon. He told me, he said, Sam, I never dreamed I'd ever own an automobile. I never dreamed I'd ever have a driver's license. And we were privileged to help him. And my wife has worked with a young lady to help her secure her driver's license also. 25 years of age, had never been in the post office. These are the type of things I guess we just take for granted. My wife said she volunteered in the homeless shelter, and a young lady said, she said, would you help me wash the dishes? She said, yes, I'll help you wash the dishes. Well, the young lady stood at the sink. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to wash dishes. So these are the intangible things, like helping this young man secure his driver's license, help him secure employment, help him to get a foothold in life, just intangible things, just one-on-one that Oaks is doing every day, not through any agency, but just one-on-one, one person at a time, one life at a time. to help these children. I know what it's like to not have a father. I know what it's like to have that hole in my life.
Sam?
One-on-one,
Okay.
to reach out to one child, just one life at a time. That's what it takes.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
Sandy Lipsdorf, 560 Toll Street. I've been volunteering at Oaks for 4 years. I was a registered nurse for 40 years. One of the things we currently just started is one thing that I do there now is I evaluate all the people for health needs. I'm only a nurse, so I can't treat anybody, but then I can refer them to the health department or whatever, drive them there if they need transportation, because I've been involved in the mental health field for a long time, and I've been on the Community Mental Health Board for 15 years. To get from Oaks to mental health takes about an hour and a half. When you're disabled, sick, addicted, that's a tremendous burden on a person to go an hour and a half. CMH can't provide any bus tickets for any transportation because they don't have funding for that. But Oaks of Righteousness provides that, or provides someone to drive them. All the wonderful things you heard about Oaks are absolutely true. Dr. Sanko is now moving his Sacred Heart clinic that he operated at his office, he's now retired, to Oaks of Righteousness, and Friday is going to be his first day to come and actually see people. Well, we will have a physician in there that can see and help these people. But what I really wanted to say to you was another story about a lesson I learned one day there. I began cooking in the kitchen, and I spent all day cooking, and when the multiple children would come home from school, they would walk in with a grocery bag tied up and throw it on the counter for me. And it had food in it that the Monroe Public School System provided. And I thought, what a wonderful thing that the school is giving these kids that don't get food, well, they get food, they're giving them a pack. Well, I was quickly informed by the people down there that those are called the Poor Kids Pack, and if they ever gave a Poor Kids Pack to their kid would never back go to school, or they'd be down there talking to them. In my comfortable house in Mr. Lamore's district, where there was always food and there was always a bed, that was a great idea in my mind of helping people. I thought that was a wonderful thing. But the people that were being helped didn't want that kind of help. That wasn't what they needed. So you have the people now here who utilize Al-Sisi. It's not me. I don't utilize it, and probably most of you don't. But they are telling you they don't want another Poor Kids Pack. They're telling you that they want Oaks of Righteousness to do those services. Who knows better what services people need than the people that are utilizing them? Because like I said, I thought it was a wonderful thing. I thought that was a wonderful thing the school system was doing. The people that they were giving to did not want that. That was stigmatizing them. They didn't want that. These are the people who utilize that center, and these are the people that are telling you what they need and what they want in their community. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
Mary Morris, 642 Michigan Avenue, Monroe, Michigan. Precinct 3. I have to thank Kelly for speaking so loud and clearly the voice that we needed to hear at this very beginning of this. And thank you all for this. But I'm wondering, were there any surveys taken by this community to see who they wanted? Were they given a voice at all? Did anybody go around and try to talk to folks? It's a big question. And were there any public hearings to, like after 5 o'clock to see what this community wants? Let's raise up this community. Let's keep it united, whatever you want to do. But I just think it's important that we, the people, get a voice. And I think transparency is all important. And I think I'm done talking because everybody is tired. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Any other comments from those present?
Oh my God, it's still more people.
Say your name, yeah.
You don't need her address, just her name's fine. Doesn't need her
Okay.
address.
Talk to me.
I did. Hello?
Hello, you're good. Just your name. So tell us what you'd
Jasmine?
like to say. Thank you.
My name is Jasmine.
Yes?
What do you want to say?
I want to say
This is serious.
Pastor Boone, when we was going through trouble, she always been there for us. So I want to say thank you. And that's all. Goodbye.
All right, thank you. Yes, name and address, please.
Diane Dickerson, 230 Elmira. I don't think anyone's saying that MCOP is not a good agency because that's not what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is MCOP is not emotionally ready to handle what they have to deal with. Our children need love, as you know, and I hear that decisions that you're making, based on the website and based on wanting to serve the whole community, which that's always been ALC's mission, is to serve the whole community. But as everyone knows, no one wants to cross the tracks. I mean, so it's not like we haven't tried. It's not like they haven't been invited. It's not ever been a mission not to include the whole county, because it always has been. I went back to teaching last year, and as you know, I work at Arborwood, a lot of low-income families, single-family homes. Kids are hungry. First thing I do is pick up my phone and text Pastor, hey, I'm coming to get a food box to deliver to one of my students. Come to school, no socks, wet shoes. Pastor, can somebody run some socks up here? No questions asked. She just had someone do it. This boy came to school with his brother's pants on, and they're falling off. Is there a belt? Do you have a belt there or pants that fit him? No questions asked. It's delivered. It's just something like that from the CP. It's not going to happen. You can't call and say, hey, I need food. Well, you'll schedule an appointment. You come next month, or you can come in 2 months. It's not going to happen. So I just think that you guys need to hear the people. Hear the people, hear the children.
Thank you. Other comments from those present here this evening? Any final comments? Yes, sir.
Todd Riggs, 161 Lavender Street. I think you guys need to really rethink who you're going to put down at the ALCC. You need somebody that's down there in the community, that's been there for a long time, that knows the people. See, I think we're looking at the money part of it. Money can't buy love. You're hearing a lot of negative things about MCOP. I've heard some positive things about it. I've not heard anybody get up and defend him. Now, when we didn't have a gym, I've gone to the city plenty of times to ask for a gym for the help for my boxing program. Didn't get much help. I've suggested buildings to you. Didn't get much help. But she helped because she knows what I'm doing with the kids. It's just not a boxing program. You guys know the boxing program. Do all the kids come out of there great? No. But neither do they all come out of great out of church. They come out of school good, no. And I'm trying to build champions in life and in the ring. So that's back to what this shirt says. But who's doing more than a community down there than she is? I've heard both of you guys say she's doing great things. Great things, right? So why would we put anybody else down there to do it? She's doing great things. Can you do better than great? I don't know. I mean, we tried somebody new at ALCC. That didn't work. Do you know why it didn't work? Because the kids don't know them. They don't have a relationship with them. They got to have trust in people. You got to trust people before you can open your heart to them. They trust her. She does a lot of great things down there. I really think you guys need to really consider this. What you're choosing here. She does a great job down there. Great job. If I was looking for another coach, I wouldn't go get a football coach to help me for boxing. I wouldn't go get a baseball coach to help me with boxing. I wouldn't go get a hockey coach for boxing. I'd go get somebody that knows something about what's going on. I'd ask somebody that's been involved in it. She's been involved. She's been doing great things for 7 years. This really isn't a difficult question. This really isn't difficult. I mean, really. Is there anybody better than her down there to do the job? The answer is no. She should. It's an open and closed book. I'm really, to be honest with you, I'm surprised that we're having this discussion, really. But you guys really think about what you're doing. I mean, I know nobody's done more for the boxing community. I mean, Al-Sisi did a great thing, but she's given us a home. She's done a lot of great things down there. I hope you guys can really rethink what you're doing. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
So.
Just your name.
Oh,
Please. Thank you.
Alante.
Thanks, Alante.
That's my dad and that's my mom.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
And so, when I come to the hall from school, pastor's allowed to whoop me, and that really says something about like the closeness that she has with youth, which is me and my friends and stuff. So I got to say.
Thanks, Alante. What's the most? Yes, please. Name and address, please.
Jocelyn James, 416 Elmira. So, I don't know, many of you probably didn't see us, you may have heard us, but we were sitting in the back there. We had to go to the bathroom. Well, the kids did. Majority, all but one of the kids that I have with me live on Elmira. Half of them are mine, half of them are not. But they're, can we go? We're hungry. Hold on, guys, hold on. Let's just, finish this out. Half of the little ones, what are we here for? Because we're trying to see who's going to get the center, MCOP or Pastor Boone. Who? MCOP. I say, coming out of the bathroom here. I said, do you guys know who MCOP is? No. Do you guys know who Pastor Boone is? Yes. And they're 5 on up. So, and it's like, it just goes to show that, the kids don't know nothing about MCOP or who that is. It just doesn't sit well with the community or the kids.
Thank you. Other comments from those present here this evening? See, okay, there's one more.
Ann McCormick, 921 Washington Street. I worked for a large corporation for 28 years, and we had a really good rapport with our coworkers and everything. But in the last years, they start downsizing, they start bean counting, they start going with money, and they start losing business. They went into looking for the money, where people were committed, people were doing things from their hearts. The community was prosperous. We had people coming in because they knew us and because they cared and we cared about them. When I retired, I started helping at Oaks, and I got that revive back in me. It was seeing a community that was in need, and I was in need. I was able to fulfill being out of a job, retiring from a job, and having something that was worthwhile. And seeing the children and seeing the people, and they're opening their hearts and receiving the love and giving the love back. And that's what I see. I see agencies that are wonderful, but when it's about the money, if you want to do something, support what's already there. Support and give your all to helping out what's already growing. The community is powerful. And it can be even more powerful if we have the city council backing in the community. It's not just the people. The people are there. The people are coming with the hearts from every denomination from all over this county. And there's a love that's being poured out. I'm seeing people just pouring out from their hearts. And it's not all about the money. God just supplies the needs. I think MCOP is wonderful for the needs that they're due, but they don't have the heart and they don't have the knowledge of what's needed there. So thank you.
Any final comments from those present? Seeing none further, at this point, it is still on the agenda as council action, and it's item 2526, which is selection of operator for Arthur Leslie Community Center. I want to state again that tonight's action is from the committee's recommendation for action by the council or other action of who to operate the Arthur Leslie Community Center effective October 1st, 2019. But also, that's just the first step. The second step is to direct the city manager to negotiate a lease and funding agreement for the city council approval, and that'll come at a later date. I don't know the exact, if it's the first meeting in September or the second, but the idea is that's where it'll come back in the formal agreement from city's council action. Tonight is about either following the committee's recommendation or not, or some other recommendation. I'm going to go to the council, see if there's any final comments or questions. I see none. So at this point, there's an action on the item under council, or on the agenda, I'm sorry, under the council action, and action would be appropriate at this time.
Your Honor,
Councilman Vining.
I move to select Oaks of Righteousness to operate the Arthur Leslie Community Center effective October 1st, 2019, and direct the city manager to negotiate a lease and a funding agreement for city council approval.
Thank you. There is a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion. I hear no seconds. The motion does not move forward. Other comments or motions or action by the council?
Your Honor,
Councilman Lamore.
I move to select Monroe County Opportunity Program to operate the Arthur Leslie Community Center effective October 1st, 2019, and direct the city manager to negotiate a lease and funding agreement for city council approval.
Support. By Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilman Feller. Item 2526, selection of operator for Arthur Leslie Community Center, in the action as was stated, as is present on the agenda. Final comments from council? Councilman Michelangeli?
Just to let the community know, I want to be up front. I'm going to vote for the motion for MCOP. Not because I am disregarding any of the efforts that Oaks of Righteousness does for the community, but the reason why I'm supporting MCOP, because I do think the community needs to have two action agencies that provide different types of services for the community. I don't look at the services as duplicative. I look at them as complementing each other and leveraging other sources of funds that could go into the neighborhood to address the needs that are needed by the community. So I just wanted to clarify my position, that I believe the city already funds on an annual basis through its block grant. We already fund money, we already provide money to Oaks of Righteousness. Well, we have in the past. Oh, you didn't take it anymore. Okay. But we have in the past provided funding to Oaks of Righteousness. But like I said, my decision is not to discount what they do and the services they provide, but to provide a complementary service that can provide more resources to the neighborhood. So that's my comment, Your Honor.
So I want to make a comment, I think, for the vote, because if I wait till the end of the meeting, I'm not sure everybody will be here because I see they're leaving already. But my comment is about the revenue and the fact that the revenue seemed to be an item that's the only reason somebody might have applied. Excuse me. If you're leaving, please leave quietly. But the revenue would have been available for the entity that was selected, whether it's one or the second or the third. I know I've heard a lot this evening about what some feel that the community is not being served by the city council. And I'm going to ensure that the information that's been provided in the past and over the past years and the benefits to the community, not only for the infrastructure and the streets and the people and the programs and where revenue comes through the Al-Sisi to provide support to some of those that said they don't get funding from the city. There was funding to the to Oaks, and it's chosen not to be asked at this time, and that's okay. But I think that we have to have a full perspective when we have these kind of conversations. It's easy to have passion in one side of what you want to do, but also it's important to look at the other side. So there's a motion and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Echoangeli?
Yes.
Vining? No. Germaini?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
Item is the consent agenda, and for approval of payments to vendors, the amount should read $1,207,081.57.
Are there any items on the consent agenda that council wishes to pull for further discussion? Any items on the consent agenda?
Your Honor? Yeah, I'd like to pull 2523 from the consent agenda for further discussion. Just have a quick question.
Any items from those present here this evening wish to have pulled from the consent agenda? Any items on the consent agenda those present here this evening wish to have pulled? Seeing none, a motion would be in order.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of 2523, and that all actions and resolutions pertaining to the various issues be approved.
Second.
It's a motion by Councilman Echoangeli, supported by Councilman Lamore, that all items on the agenda except 2523 be accepted, placed on file, recommendations and resolutions adopted. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Echoangeli?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Germaini?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
Item 2523, purchase of police vehicles.
Councilman Felder.
Thank you, Your Honor. I seem to remember that we engaged in an enterprise fleet program, and so I'm just wondering why we're purchasing additional vehicles if we're entering that rental program.
Yes, Stu?
With our DPS light duty vehicles, that we have actually, I think we back up here. I think we are starting to do this, and this is the purchase amount that was actually authorized, and then we put it into the lease program. But we initially started it with the DPS light duty trucks and vehicles, so this would be into the lease.
Go ahead,
If I can ask.
Yeah, because I've thought too.
Is the life of the vehicles that we're purchasing going to extend past when the sale of them will be? You're essentially buying something that you're only going to get half the use out of.
Yeah, no,
You see the concern.
part of the program with Enterprise that we work with is, we do an annual review of the vehicles, where they are in the marketplace, and to maximize their resale. And so, most of them are probably going to have a life of 4 or 5 years, and then we turn them over again. But because that's how they're amortized, is over a 5-year period.
Okay.
But there may be opportunities where they think the market is favorable to maybe dispose of them earlier from a net present value standpoint. So in this case here, we're just putting it into the fleet as well as we have in the past.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
I think I have a question on that, because I know in the past, and I know the chief's here, but the purchase of vehicles, of course, it comes through a bid process that is kind of one source to get to make those bids and purchases. And there's many that will not outfit the police vehicles, but that's a good question, whether they're, do they fit within the lease program when they're outfitted as police vehicles? So I think some follow-up there. I don't have that answer.
We'll follow up on that with you as well, so.
It's a good question. We went to a lease program regarding most vehicles. I'd have to, well, I was gonna have to see about the, in the police package that has to be purchased. There's only one vendor in the state that will provide police vehicles, and put all the, needed equipment and other items on there. So, we'll follow up, Councilman.
Not opposed to purchase, just why are they not part of the
Yeah.
program and
Okay.
a direct buy?
Correct what I told you.
Yeah.
We actually do, we don't have it in that program just yet. So my apologies. I mean, we've talked about putting it in there, and I'm thinking that this is the first phase of doing the enterprise operation. But no, we're still doing the outright purchase. But like what we do with the light-duty vehicles, we have them amortized over a 5-year period. This we have not put in there yet, so.
But I think it's a good conversation to have. Is there an option for these type of vehicles within the lease program? I'm not sure that
There
is.
is.
There is. And so
There
we'll have
is.
to follow up on that. Thank
Yeah,
you,
because my
Councilman.
understanding was that the entire police fleet was going to be.
Eventually, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right.
My apologies.
Not a problem.
Other comments on item 2523? Seeing none, a motion would be in order.
Your Honor, regarding agenda item number 2523, I recommend that City Council approves the award of the contract, the purchase of 4 vehicles, total price of $140,021 from Signature Ford of Owasso, Michigan, and all of its actions be taken out and the clerk record it.
I'll second.
There's a motion by Councilman Lohr, supported by Councilwoman Germaini on item 2523, purchase of police vehicles and for the statements made. Clerk, please call the roll.
Angeli? Yes. Vining? Germaini? Yes. Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes. Clerk, next item.
No further items, Your Honor.
Moving to council comments. That's right.
I have one comment, Your Honor, and that's action that the council took probably about 3 months ago, right during the lawn mowing contract. We had asked for a periodic update from Director of Community Development on the status of the grass cutting in all the city's cemeteries. So I guess I would just ask that, rather than ask for it, that we just get a monthly, at least a monthly update on how the grass cutting is going at Woodland Cemetery and over at Memorial Place. And
If I may just give you the report I got from the Community Development Director. He wasn't necessarily pleased with the performance, so that was just in the last week.
Okay. And if anybody hasn't taken a look, I would suggest you go over to the Memorial Place, which is at 7th and Monroe. Take a look at the headstone restoration, which was part of a grant that we got through the Monroe County Historical Commission, their grant program. I thought it turned out very well. So, that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilman Vining.
No comment, Your Honor.
Councilwoman Germaini.
I want to congratulate Stephanie and the MCOP. And like I said earlier, I see a union, and you will work very hard to make all of the agencies in Monroe work together, because you work well with them as well. Anyway, so my vision is that it will be a better place, and hopefully everyone will see that. There was a lot of passion in this room tonight, and I hope for great things. Congratulations. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilman Lamore.
Yes, sir. The Jazz Fest was held 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. I thought it was a great success. We had several thousand people there attending the one-day event, and I think it has a place in Monroe's future for next year as well. So I think we need, we don't necessarily have to be, but somebody needs to be in the hunt to get that back in order again for next year. Whether it be Altruist International or another fiduciary, that'd be great to have that again. Also, I'd like to put on the next council meeting's action to have City Council reconsider previous council action to change 7th and 8th Street traffic from one-way to two-way traffic, and instead change only 8th Street to two-way traffic. My main concern is that the information on the study suggesting that 7th Street traffic volume would double and 8th Street will remain unaffected. I thought that was a little bit unfair for the 7th Street residents, thus taking away from the aspect of restoring the neighborhood feel. So I think it's something we need to consider for action next time we have a meeting here. And that's pretty much it I have. Thank you.
Councilman Felder.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I can go back to the beginning of the meetings where we were talking about roads a little bit. If there are contractors that are not performing up to the qualifications that the city ought to have of anyone that it contracts with, that's certainly of interest to me. I'll be wanting to follow with Patrick Lewis about that. He should be looking for me for the next week or hiding from me, depending on whatever the situation may be. And second of all, I would encourage any contractor, I mean, a lot of the times why we're engaging with contractors that we would rather prefer not to, or rather are not getting the schedules that we want or the amount of work done that we can in the time allotted, or getting the prices on those jobs that we want, that we would anticipate. I think that that's a concern, and I would invite any contractor out there that's seeking business to apply with the city of Monroe. We got a lot of work that we're trying to contract out and get these funds out to you guys. Please come and talk to us. We'd love to contract you a job or two. And finally, to all the nonprofits that operate in the broader community, please continue or consider participating in the community center and the operations that are going on down there. It's certainly a priority for us. We hope to see you all in the future. I believe that that we began with a premise at the beginning of this process where it was not pitting people against each other adversely, but rather a spirit of cooperation. And that seems to not be what it has ended up as, and that is unfortunate. The interviews, I think, were structured in a way that promoted the cooperation between individual entities, and that seems to not be how it ended up. And that's certainly unfortunate. I'm sorry to see it. I do hope to see the participation from all the nonprofits in our community down at the community center at that part of town, and in our city and the broader community as a whole in the future. I think that would be a good thing. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, tonight was pretty rough. You know, I don't think I ever heard anyone say anything against Oaks. And we all, you know, we did a lot of thinking and planning, and we know both agencies. And but the one thing that never came up during the discussion was about the wonderful employees that are already at the Al-Sisi who care about the kids. And so a lot of the things that they think are going to be missing, I just feel like it's a lot of misunderstanding. You know, that they're going to be taken over, or, you know, it's not going to be what I envisioned it to be. My vision is that the LCC must stay open. And in order to do that, we chose the company that we thought, the agency that we thought would be the most stable in that area. It doesn't mean that Oaks can't still come over there and work with, you know, the people that are there. There's so much good work that could be going on down there. And I hope that we don't get caught up in looking at what's wrong instead of looking for what's right, because this could be a wonderful opportunity, you know, for the people that work in both places, for the children, for the families, for the whole neighborhood. You know, it could take on a whole new meaning. And so I'm hoping that we can work on making the understanding better, you know, so that there aren't so many questions. The other thing is that this is kind of on a personal note. On Saturday, I had someone come to my home that was upset about the one-ways on 8th and 7th. And I would encourage anyone that would like to talk to anyone on city council, because we do not have offices. Or if we do, we're doing our other jobs. So if you could use our cell phone numbers or our email, that would be deeply appreciated. We could arrange a meeting, we could have a discussion when, other things aren't going on. And it's not that, we represent you and want to do the best that we can, but it's just a little unnerving to have someone come to your house when they are upset. So, and that's all I have, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman, do you have a
Yeah,
follow-up?
Your Honor, I just have a procedural matter I want to discuss before we go on to your comments. First of all, just for clarity purposes, if anybody read the traffic study, the traffic engineer did not say that the traffic was going to increase twice the amount on 7th Street. What they did is, in order to really test the validity of the model, they put into the model the assumption that traffic would increase twice to see if it was going to change the level of service. The level of service to start out with was level A, which is the best. And by throwing twice the amount of cars into the model, the level of service still came out at level A, the best, which proved that the street can handle some additional traffic. So the woman that cited that in the email did not thoroughly understand why the engineer put in assumptions. He was putting in assumptions to test the worst case scenario, and that's what it was. The procedural issue I have is we've already made this decision twice. Personally, as a councilman, I have no interest in opening up this conversation again. I understand that we're in election mode and people are up for election, but this is not the way to do it, because somebody, he didn't contact me because he probably knew what the answer was I was going to give him, but he showed up at Paula's house and he contacted some of the other people on council. And I just don't believe that one person should have the ability to basically influence somebody for the entire council to have to spend going through this reevaluation again. So my procedural issue is this. We've already made a discussion, we've already made a motion, it's already been approved to convert it. Now, if the councilman wants to make a motion to reconsider, then he needs to make a motion. But I am procedurally, somebody asking to have that go back on the agenda for council to reconsider is not the appropriate thing to do.
Okay, I'll make my comments because I'm going to start with the awareness for everybody. Of course, it's time for the back to school, and I ask that everybody be aware of that, because there's youth that are excited to be back in school, crossings, buses, all those. We ask this every year. Please be mindful of traffic and children and around the schools as well as in the neighborhoods, just to make sure everybody's safe, because I know that they're excited to get back back with their friends. That's my first comment. The second has to do with West 7th Street, follow-up comment, because while the discussion has been decided, the action on the council at the last meeting was there wasn't I'll just say an amendment to that motion. And I also was contacted by a couple of residents, one in particular, but two. And after the report was obtained and reviewed, it was about the volume on the West 7th Street and anticipation. The modeling's already been discussed, and that seemed to be the major concern. So the request was not to change 7th Street, but didn't care whether 8th changed, didn't care if Cass changed, didn't care if Harrison changed, but it was just the street in which the person lived. So as I thought this through and was talking to him, the motion that the council made was to, within 1 year, revisit where we're at. And as I thought that through, we shouldn't just wait for a year from now to say, how was it? And I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think the administration already has some ideas of what we should be doing to account for this next past year, because we did pass that we did previously vote to make it go from a one-way to two-way, but we also then added that there'd be a review in a year. So I'm just going to request that city administration consider putting in place some type of evaluation process, things that are important of what should be collected and criteria during the year. It's not changing. I'm not changing where I'm at with this. I support two ways, and I think that's the start, and we have to see how that progresses, and I think we'll have a better idea. But maybe some reports back on a quarterly traffic analysis. I think that might be in there. Report any issues that might have occurred, what that volume might be, because right now you can get that on the websites as they are. Maybe consider a revisit with the residents at 6 months out, and just to evaluate if there are options to mitigate, if it even needs to be mitigated. And then, of course, signage and other items. So I'm looking at Mr. Pasto. I know that we chatted briefly, but I wanted to bring that up because he has had conversation with the police and already is in action on some of those. And I don't know if, Mr. Pasto, if you have anything you want to add at this point, something down the road.
Just to follow up after the action from the last meeting, Chief McCormick and I talked briefly that, we'll pull some crash data, for comparable periods, and we'll probably run the counters out and have it counted again just to see what that traffic flow is so that we have a good comparable from the baseline that we started with. So,
and I think there's times in the year, whether it be summer or winter or spring, that traffic changes. People take different routes and that. So I think it's an analysis I think that we should do on many things that we implement. And when we say we're going to review, that means okay, what did happen? I think staying on it would also lend to the residents that we are looking at that, though. Again, I do support the two ways. So one of the correspondence received from the city manager was on the chronic nuisance ordinance and a report about that. I think the council has that and should look closely at that. I think it's helpful in looking. We, as I say, we now have some of the technology to do some of these analysis, but also the staff to help with that. So I look forward to how these might move forward in the future and recommendations that might set the policy. But along with that, I thought there's other items that we have to do, and I shared that because we have, I call it not just blight, it's not about just grass cutting and other items out front, some of what we saw earlier in the work session, but some of those structural blight, some of those residents that when you go by and think there's a hole in the roof and maybe it's not even occupied. And so as I travel, I do put those on My Monroe on the go app, which anybody can put in there, take a photo and say, this is a problem. Otherwise, we may not know. So my thought is, just as we've done this with the this nuisance ordinance, we should be also looking at, hopefully, and asking the administration, looking at how we can track those, not just for the time we make the call or a resident does, or when it gets moved into the phase of been handled, but down the road, because sometimes they do take a long time. Sometimes the ones that we might go to court with, some that may not go to court, but yet it's an absentee person, and there's a lot of maneuvering that the city attorney has to be involved in. So kind of a matrix timeline for that is something I think could be valuable as well. And lastly, I guess I'll, tonight with the input, I always want to thank people for the willingness to come and provide their input and discussion. Yeah, and I think there's ways it was done, and I think the way that it was presented, there's a lot of passion, a lot of heart about it, but also I think the comments from the council regarding MCOP and what they do provide and how they'll be present and support services they'll provide. So I also want to thank the applicants that applied and went through the interview process, and thank the council and the committee for their efforts on this matter. Clerk Treasurer Lavoie.
I have no comments, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Pastu?
Just a couple items. One is the road work has been frustrating for everybody. I was recently brought to my attention. There was an education institution ready for the start of the year, and their parking lot's not done. And we're not alone. And I will tell you, I know it's frustrating if you live there on Maple or anywhere, but it has really been a miserable experience. The fact that you're getting one bid and they're drawing 8 ways to Sunday to try and get their other projects that they have out there. It's just, the market's collapsed, pure and simple. It's really what's happened is the market that existed for contractors to do road work or water work and many other infrastructure things has really, really collapsed, unfortunately. And we're finding ourselves at that point to try and figure out how we can go forward with it. But be that as it may, we'll follow up on where we are with the other 2 projects that were referenced tonight. The other thing with it is related to blight, Mr. Green formed internally a committee that with the building and certainly City Attorney Matt Buds following up on some of the actions that we need to take. We've got a demolition list, and I just need to bring it to City Council at a work session to show you where we're at with it in the process and actually how it goes about evaluating, which ones we're going to bring probably forward for some dangerous structure notices and ultimate action. So the other two items, I'm going to defer to Mr. Buds, talk a little bit about, the motion to rescind and how that would function, how that functions. And then I think he had another item he wanted to talk about.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, please do, sir.
So the one comment is as far as rescinding. So one thing we need to be cognizant of, the charter talks about the need for that to not occur at a special meeting unless the full council is present. And I would tend to agree with Councilman Icoangeli's view of if a matter's been decided already, I think procedurally the right vehicle is for a motion to be made to reconsider or bring that matter back forth again, I think would be procedurally the correct way. The other comment I wanted to make tonight is I felt, compelled to make a mention of the prior citizen comments regarding the Open Meeting Act. Obviously, my office takes that very seriously, making sure that the council and the various committees take their Open Meetings Act responsibilities seriously. So I was troubled by what I will call the misinformation of that statement, and would encourage the person that made that comment to review the Open Meetings Act. As was, I think, stated before, that was a committee that made a recommendation that was brought before council. Obviously, council heard all those present tonight that were willing to be heard and wanted to make their voices be heard, and I think that was done. And so I'd encourage accurate statements about the Open Meetings Act. And that's all I have. Your Honor, excuse me.
Your Honor, may I interject? I was contacted by the citizen that spoke up this evening regarding a potential violation of the Open Meetings Act. And Matt Buds and I went over everything again very thoroughly to ensure that we were not violating the Open Meetings Act. And I'm very comfortable with the conclusion we came to. And the resident, the resident that spoke tonight, he was informed of the procedure and what we were doing. So because I had communication with him, I wasn't going to bring it up. But since Mr. Buds is clarifying, I just felt that I too had a hand in it, and I guard Open Meetings Acts very, very carefully. Sometimes I know I sometimes drag things along a little bit just to make sure. So I too take it very seriously, and nobody did anything with regard to that meeting that was against any open meetings law. So just wanted to say that.
Very good. So any comments, remaining comments from those present here this evening? Any comments from those present here this evening? Before I take a motion to adjourn, I also want to thank Stephanie, Steve, and Mr. Watkins for being here this evening from MCOP. With that, a motion would be in order.
Your Honor, I motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Felder, supported by Councilwoman Germaini to adjourn. Clerk, please call the roll.
Icoangeli?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Germaini? Yes. Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman? Mayor Clark?
Yes.